I remember as a very small child, probably about 4 or 5, lying in bed, sort of drifting between awake and asleep, and pondering what is the difference between life and death. I guess I was so young and able to see beyond the veil of conditioning that I had the knowing and understanding of the illusion way back then, and that moment has always stuck with me. I have never really fit in with most of the people around me and have always felt quite different, I'm sure, like many of you. But that moment and that experience has always been sitting with me over all these years. That, along with many other experiences as I have gone through my life. And I'm doing this video because there are days when we are pondering the depths of our being and we're looking at ourselves from all different perspectives and dimensions, as you all very much know. Not every video is always going to be 100% uplifting and positive as the way life is. There are ebbs and flows and the ups and downs and the clearings and the revelations that happen along the way. And I think this is just a human experience that we all go through in order to live and understand this crazy, crazy life. And I wonder some days how I continue to remain so positive, because there are times when we are purging and we're getting into the depths of what is bubbling underneath. When we were unconscious at some point, we all were. We were responding and reacting to things without the knowledge of what was triggering these responses and reactions. And now we're, many of us, you guys especially, we're at the point where we kind of understand where a lot of this stuff has come from, what the root causes were. And it still, to this day, can make us sad. Because I think in all of us, there's a divine purpose that is emerging, and understanding that this is why we're going through this process, and that love is the core of our being. And then the realizations that come through that make us shake us awake and recognize that not all people are at that level of love, and it hurts to really understand things. And that is where the processing occurs. It is really just the knowing and the understanding and the sitting with the emotion of it all that some days is what is necessary. It's not a bad thing. I think we go through life a lot expecting that everyone is happy, and if we're not happy, then there's something wrong with us. But in reality, it is this ebb and flow of this human life that we all experience. It doesn't often look like that on social media or any other media for that matter, but this is the reality of our experience here for most people. So it is dealing with this moment, these moments of realization, when we get these knowledge drops that make us go through and walk through some of the painful stuff. That is the hardest part of this process, and why a lot of people will not do it, because it's painful. And it's also what makes us grow and what makes us become better. And it dislodges all of these energetics in our body that have been sitting there for sometimes years before we can let them go. At least bring them to the surface and acknowledge them, and then let them be and go on their way until they come up again. And this is a recurring process. So it can be hard some days. I mean, the last 6 months has been a lot has been going on. I have dealt with a lot in my life, and I've always tried to remain positive. But, I recognize that my parents, both of them, really were emotionally distant. They were neglected me, essentially. And I was out there and both of them, in their own ways, abandoned me. And I was out there to really set my own way without really any emotional support whatsoever from either of them. Now, on the surface, it looked like I had, a fairly normal life. I know my father tried very hard to give me the things, and both of them did in a way that helped me grow. But there was no emotional support there. And one of the things that I have found, and I didn't discover till much later on in my life, is that I'm a highly sensitive person, and they were not. And I grew up in a very insensitive family, and I, am very highly sensitive. And I don't use that as an excuse. I never actually even knew that until much later on in my 50s, actually. So a lot of things started to make sense when I understood that. But life impacted me very differently. Having that experience at the age of 4 and moving through life, I was always a very kind person. And I always really wanted people to be happy. And I never really understood the negativity in the world until I had to go through some of these difficult experiences. And this is where some of the emotion comes up. And I think this is coming up right now for many people due to the Cancer influence in the planetary alignments. Speaking of which, recently, I guess too, in the past 6 months, the past year, have gone through a Saturn return, second Saturn return, brutal, and the Pluto movement. Both of those affected my Saturn in my first house, and Pluto in Capricorn, which represents my first house rising. So I have gone through a huge transformation that could be really my middle name. So much has happened, literally, life and death transformation on many different levels. Many different frequencies have been experienced. And it has been probably a lot of the reason why I haven't been communicating, because it's made me realize I'm just one bundle of energy experiencing this consciousness the same as you. And I don't propose to know everything. I just am walking through this journey with courage and a knowing that many of us have deep inside that there is something bigger here. So it has been a lot, and I think a lot for many of you, especially with these planetary changes. The Pluto is a huge planetary transformational experience for many of us, for society, and it is impacting us, all of us, in many different ways. Oh boy, it's just adding on the layers of the intensity of the energies, which is becoming a standard for many people who are experiencing these. Some people, again, the highly sensitive, feel these energies. Very frustrating sometimes when we feel the intensity of these energies and the people around us do not understand. And the ascension process in general is like that, and it can alienate us from those in our lives which keep us connected. So this is another one of the many challenges as we march forward through this massive, massive time of change. And you really have to be a warrior here, because it is not easy. It is really digging deep and remembering who you are. And I reflect back on many of the videos I did. Boy, I think we're talking about 4 years ago now, 5 years ago. I can't remember when the first one was, but I had just come out of my heart transplant and I was going through recovery, and I was very much connected. The veil was very thin. It was such a nice place to be. I could see so much, and it was such a positive, uplifting feeling of being truly in the 5D realm, very high frequency. But I was brought back into, so it's interesting because I was brought back in to the density of this reality, and had to really deal with the recognizing of the density in other people and myself, for that matter, and walk through this process. So this was part of the experience that I was meant to go through. And this was extremely difficult because I was surrounded by people as an empath who was really connected. I had to really go through and understand, and I could see all of the density I had myself surrounded with because of my early experiences, the root causes of people pleasing and really wanting to be loved and to be understood. I didn't know that was driving some decisions in my life, which I'm not going to say were good or bad. I am very lucky to still be alive, to be honest. This is how challenging they were. So there's something in many of us, very, very deep soul journey, that has kept us going as these warriors of understanding this greater cause. And there's many, many, many of us, even though we don't often, because we tend to pull in, we don't talk about this publicly. It's a very difficult environment to talk about, to talk in. Our world is being constantly restricted down to what is acceptable behavior. And it turns me off. Anything, the social media, everything is being, as you know, very controlled. And our world is one of open, infinite, creative possibilities. So these two things don't really map too well anymore. So this is how my brain works. Because I have a lot of squares to my Mercury, which is the planet of thinking, sometimes overthinking, sitting in the 11th house of Sagittarius, with my moon in Gemini. So a big square there, my North Node in Gemini, and lots of squares to Pluto and Uranus and Mars, all sitting up there in the 8th house, and me as a Scorpio. Wow, like I'm definitely a very deep thinker and a deep person, and highly connected to the cosmic energies, if you will. More of an interest than trying to push anything down anyone's throat. I believe it's our role to just continue to warrior through who we truly are, to voice and walk our own lives based on what we believe. This has nothing to do with alignment with any particular group or any of that. It has to do with what my belief system is, my true belief system is, which resides deep within me, and my knowing of what is happening on a higher consciousness level. And what this requires is a whole lot of self-discipline, of mastering our skills, of understanding how to step out of the unconscious behaviors and back into alignment of who we are. This all takes time and practice, and belief and tears and trust. When we feel like we can't go on anymore, we do. And I think what I can tell you is it's a hard place to be, and I have been there many, many, many times. And what has kept me going is this belief that the work we are doing here is the reason why we are indeed here. So I've worked very hard to come through some very ups and downs in the physical world. I have obstacles that I have to face every day, but I truly value my belief system of what is indeed possible. Being outside and walking is my meditation. It is my relief. It is the only way that I've been able to get through a lot of this, through very physically difficult times, not just related to the energies, but many other things, and connecting back to earth as much as possible. It doesn't matter how you approach this process. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It is what feels right for you. And just knowing that you are moving forward, I think, is the ultimate goal here. And sometimes it's as simple as that, one step forward, if you will. So I just really wanted to share that. I have been really dealing with moving through some hard lessons in what I have been given in this lifetime, related to my parents, my family. Ancestral trauma ends here, and it hasn't been easy for a lot of us, because wow, that shit runs deep, especially down the feminine line. I think we've been getting a very bad deal, and we are warriors and we are leaders. And what we know and do is standing strong. So I don't know, keep moving. We just keep moving forward. Life is good. I'm so grateful for spring, being in Canada for one thing. And I'm so grateful for the energies, because they are indeed energizing and can be used intentionally to keep growing, to keep moving forward, to keep healing and healing and healing. That's what they're for. They're a support mechanism. They're not meant to make you go, oh, when is this going to be over? But I feel that too some days. But it's just the process. We are evolving here, and nobody really knows what's going to happen next. Be careful, I think, my opinion, of hanging on to others' ideals, trusting what you are feeling through, truly trusting. Go out on that walk. We got to put our phones down more. I think that's part of where I'm coming from. And just sort of enjoy this experience. I know I've done this before. So much of this is natural for me, and that's probably one of the reasons I don't talk about it, because it's sort of like, yeah, okay, you've done this and this and this, and here's your experience this time around. We're going to add in, we're going to throw in a little bit of heart surgery. We're going to throw in menopause. We're going to throw in toxic narcissistic behavior. We'll just put that all in together at the same time, and then we'll see how that plays out. So, yeah, there you have it. I'm continuing forward with all of you who are on this journey as we are creating this new consciousness. That is our gift. So remember that. It's a journey. It's wild. It takes us to unexpected places, and it's certainly not boring. I'll give you that. Thanks for listening to my ramble, guys. I hope you are all doing well. I missed you. I'm sorry I don't talk more. Maybe I'll get over this anxiety I have about communicating. Again, sort of a, root cause behind some of that is my voice was never heard when I was younger at all. It was shut down. My emotional needs were shut down. My ideas were shut down, and my good experiences were never really approved of or enjoyed. So I'm moving beyond that and experiencing the greatness of this life, and it is a good one. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.